If someone enters the United States with a visa, but then he overstays the visa, has he committed a crime? The answer is no. He's not a criminal. This is a civil offense. Last year, did you get a speeding ticket? Do you think that you're a criminal? Well, no, you're not, because that is also a civil offense. It doesn't get you locked up in jail just because you had a speeding ticket. There might be other factors that come in, but same thing with the overstays. However, we're going to talk about the consequences of what happens to someone who has overstayed a visa. But I'm going to do that in a minute. One of the things I wanted to discuss was social media. I mean, social media is ablaze with pundits and just regular people talking about all these arrests that are happening at marriage interviews. Typical scenario is someone comes in on a visitor's visa, they overstay that visa, then a year or two later they meet Mr. Wonderful and they get married. Well, the U.S. citizen files the I-130 on behalf of his spouse, and then the immigrant files for adjustment of status, the I-45, right? The immigrant is going to get work permission based on that, and then it depends on your district. These dates change all the time, so it's impossible to tell you how long it's going to take. But say 3-4 months down the road, maybe 5-6 months down the road, you get a notice saying that you have an interview. We call that the marriage interview, right? That's where they're going to go through all the forms and they're going to ask you questions. They're going to find out if this is a valid marriage or not. You're going to be able to present your evidence. Let's say they came in as a student and they were able to get a social security number from 3-4 years back, but then they dropped out of school. But then they marry a U.S. citizen, and for the last 2 years or so, or the last year, they did file taxes together because she or he had a valid social security number. You're going to present evidence that you guys actually live together, that you have commingled your money. They're going to ask you questions. Have you, the first question they almost always ask is, so how did you two meet? I just discussed this Sunday on my live stream. By the way, in case you don't know, Sundays at 10 a.m. I do live streams. I've not had a lot of success because I have so few subscribers. I only have, I think at this point I have 74. But I've set a goal of 100 subscribers by the end of the year. And I only need 26. So, and it's December 10th. So that's 3 weeks, right? I think I can do it. You can help me out. Hit subscribe if you haven't done subscribe yet. Just if you want more if you want more of this, we'll talk about it later. There's another way you can support the channel if you don't want to subscribe to it, or if you've already subscribed to it. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I did discuss this Sunday a little bit on the live stream. So, what has been going on, and we know this because there was very recently, there was a leaked memo that basically describes what's happening, is that you come in to your interview, you and your spouse come into the interview, right? First thing they do, they swear you in to make sure you're going to tell the truth. You sit down. The adjudicator is sitting behind the desk, putzing around with the keyboard. Well, apparently, while you're in the interview thinking, we finally got here, and thinking that this is going to be good because you're pretty sure this is going to get approved because you have a valid marriage. In fact, you might even be expecting, or the wife might be expecting. Well, unbeknownst to you, on that computer, The adjudicator is passing messages back and forth in a group to their supervisor and to and to ICE agents, and they're discussing whether or not at the end of the interview they're going to have ICE come in and arrest the person who has overstayed their visa. Now look, we always knew, as immigration attorneys, we always knew that this is possible. You could get arrested and put in deport proceedings, but it never happened. It never happened because it's a complete and utter waste of time, resources, manpower. It's ridiculous. We'll get into that a little bit later too, about what the courts can and can't do. But it was never really an issue. This frickin' administration, what they're doing, they're picking low-hanging fruit. They're not going after the criminals. I can't get into the politics too much, but, listen, Trump keeps saying, we got to get these violent criminals off our streets. And who are they picking up? They're picking up the nannies. They're picking up the maids. They're picking up the woman who, is married in a valid marriage to a U.S. citizen who will eventually get permanent residence through immigration court. That's who they're picking up. They're picking up people at frickin' Home Depot. They're not picking up criminals. And like I said, an overstay is not a criminal. It infuriates me that they say that. Because, I have to assume that the pundits that are on the conservative side, they have to know this much about immigration law. They have to know that overstaying a visa is not a crime, and yet they just regurgitate that over and over, and they get their followers, all worked up over it. And soon, before you know it, everybody knows if you overstayed your visa, it's a crime. No, I'm here to say it's not. Okay, so this leaked memo says that, you think they're checking something. You don't know what she's typing. The adjudicator's typing something. They're sending messages back and forth. Now, they don't want to necessarily grab somebody up who's got type 1 diabetes, or has some other serious medical condition. Or it's a female and they've got 2 or 3 kids, little kids, at the house. They might be using their judgment. Again, it might depend upon who the adjudicator is, who the supervisor is, what instructions they've gotten. So this is very creepy as far as I'm concerned, but that's what they're doing. The one, as I mentioned on Sunday, the one silver lining to this whole thing is that once the interview is over, that's when ICE will come in and arrest the person. That's very important, because when you're doing an I-130/485, we call that a 2-step. They're approving 2 things. 1, the I-130 proves that it's a valid marriage. And 2, the adjustment of status proves that you're eligible to change your status from a non-immigrant to an immigrant. The fact that they've actually had the interview, they're going to deny the 485, right? But they will probably, if the adjudicator thinks that it's a valid marriage, they'll approve the I-130. That's the immigrant visa petition. That's super important because, the immigrant, I'm trying to come up with a name, Maria gets arrested. She's detained. She'll bond out. If she has no criminal problems, she's married to a USC, she's got 3 kids, she's not a flight risk, she's not a threat to society, she'll get bond. And then she has to hang out until, it's time to go to court. There's going to be a number of different, you're going to have some master calendar hearings. I mean, now you just took this thing from, this could have been approved today, to now it's going to take 3 to 4 years to get approved. Not to mention ka-ching, right? So ridiculous. Ridiculous. But part of the problem is that people don't know. People are like, oh my God, I should just go home. I shouldn't go to the interview. I shouldn't go to the interview. You should definitely go to the interview. Definitely go to the interview. You want that I-130 approved. Why? Because the immigration court does not have jurisdiction over the I-130. By that I mean the judge can't decide if this is a valid marriage or not. Only USCIS can do that. So you need that I-130 approved. Once it's approved, now the judge can start to consider the adjustment of status paperwork. That two-step gets broken down into, well, the two-step is usually done together, but in this scenario would get broken in half. USCIS does the I-130, EOIR, Executive Office of Immigration Review, aka Deportation Court, they'll do the adjustment of status. And like I said, expect years. Just saying. Without that I-130 approved, you got a problem. So, as I said Sunday, it is a silver lining that they're coming in before, strike that. I think I made the same mistake on Sunday. They're coming in, ICE is coming in after they've actually had their interview. And so the officer can approve that I-130, but they will deny the 485. So, as I was saying, someone overstaying does not automatically get a criminal record just because of the overstay. However, re-entering the United States after you've been deported, let's say you were here, 2-3 years ago, somehow went through this whole process, got deported, and then you say, well, I've got 3 kids up here, and my husband's up here. I'm coming back in. She re-enters illegally. That is a crime. And the first offense, I'm going back years, so, don't quote me on this, but the first offense would get you locked up for a year, 18 months maybe. But if you do it twice, like sometimes what happens is that they deport you back again, they do expedited removal, they deport you again, and you come back again because you just go to a different entry point and you come back again. Now you're going to get locked up for about 3 to 5 years. So there are some consequences where, in some situations where entering the United States illegally can be a crime. The other thing you have to think about, where they say they're going to go home. We'll just do consular processing. I'll just do consular processing. This is, I'm too stressed out. I'm just going to go home. And apparently CBP has an app that you can self-deport yourself. Oh, and you're supposedly getting money. If you do that, you're getting 2 things. 3 things. They're going to give you a plane ride home. You're going to get some money if you do that, and you'll be able to come back legally. No. I don't know about the plane ride. I didn't check it out. I'll have to ask my listserv. I'm on an ALA listserv. Have anybody that does this? Did they actually get some money? But I'll tell you one thing. You're not going to be allowed to come back in. They're not going to do that. They got you out. That's their objective. They're not going to let you come back in. If you've been here illegally, if you've only been here, let's say you come in on a visitor's visa and you're illegal for a week or 2. You're back with this guy that you met when you were back home, and the 2 of you have said, you know what, I think we should get married. We're going to get married. But you decide, well, I have to get married back home with my family. I have a huge family, and we're going to get married back home. And she packs up her bags, and she leaves the United States to get married at home. Or maybe you actually got married here, but she's going to go home because they want to have a big marriage. They're not going to. I've actually had people that have done this, where they don't tell their family that, well, we're already married. We're already married. They just say, oh, he's coming in. We're going to get married, and so they have this big, this big marriage back home with all the family and friends of one of the spouses. And you're going to do consular processing. Well, that's fine. If she's only been here for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, she hasn't accrued any unlawful presence. The visa is canceled. Whether or not, the minute she overstays, that visa is invalid. Whether or not some officer has put a big red X through it, doesn't matter. It's automatically canceled. However, the scenario changes if the person has been, I'll keep it a she, if she's been here illegally for 6 months or more. She's been here illegally for 6 months up to a year and then leaves the country. She's not allowed back for 3 years without a waiver. And it was difficult to get a waiver during Obama's time and Biden's time. It's going to be next to impossible to get a waiver now, right? 6 months to 12 months, and she leaves. It springs into action when the person leaves. That's why it drives me crazy when people say, well, you should go home and do the right thing. You should do it the right way. Just go home and, wait in line like everybody else. Guess what? Barred for 3 years. And if she's been here illegally for a year or more, and by that I mean 365 days plus 1, she's barred for 10 years. As I said, there's a waiver, but the waiver only applies if, 1, you have a U.S. citizen spouse or parent. You can have 10 U.S. citizen children, it doesn't count. So you need a U.S. citizen spouse or parent, and that person has to be in a situation where they're going to suffer extreme hardship if you can't join them, if you can't come back. They need you. The problem with that scenario is that people who really, really have, I had an older woman, and they had been married for many years, and then finally they decided, this is going back like 5-6 years, they decided that they were going to do this whole process. But she had entered without inspection, so she needed to leave and process with the consul. So she has to do the waiver. She had a USC spouse who was very sick, who really relied on her. And so what happens? They don't file anything because she can't leave. Why? Because he needs her. He needs her. Because that's the other side of the coin. If you say you leave the country, you file for this waiver, and you say, well, you've been living back in your home country for 6 months, 7 months, 10 months, waiting for this waiver. Who's been taking care of him? Well, he has an adult daughter who comes in. Oh, so he has an adult daughter. So she could take care of him. You don't have to take care of him. I'm telling you. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And for sure, talk to a lawyer. I was going to talk about that a little bit but I'm in Facebook. And I'm in a wonderful website that's just for immigration attorney. Not website, but Facebook group just for immigration attorneys. That's wonderful. I'm also on a listserv, but that's for something else. I also am in an asylum group. That's actually a Facebook group for asylees, or to ask questions about asylum. That's actually pretty good. It's gotten, people give pretty good answers. But because I'm in the asylum group, then I get prompted, do you want to join the I-130 group? Do you want to join the 485 group? So I clicked, yeah, join. Oh my God, freaking disaster. It's what prompted me to do this video. The advice People are giving, oh my God. It's like, I would strongly urge you, I'm not on Instagram, so I don't know, but, and Reddit probably has all this stuff too. Don't get your advice from social media. All right, please don't get your advice from social media. If you have an immigration issue, call an attorney. Make sure it's an attorney who is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. We call that AILA, A-I-L-A. Make sure the attorney is a member of AILA, because it costs a lot of money to be a member of that. However, they don't really take themselves seriously as an immigration attorney if they're not a member of AILA. It's the national organization. And I know a lot of attorneys that say, oh yeah, especially attorneys that speak foreign languages. Like I speak Spanish and sort of Portuguese. Half my Portuguese just comes out Spanish with a Brazilian accent. But I do speak Spanish, and there's a lot of attorneys that speak a foreign language. But they do everything. In fact, I mentioned this in another video, that I have a good dear friend of mine who's also a Spanish speaker, and he used to castigate me about this. Beth, if you are really missing the boat, there's so many things you could be doing. You should be you're a Spanish speaker. You're the one anybody who's a Spanish speaker who has a problem that needs a lawyer, they should come to you. Have it be a criminal issue, have it be family law, landlord tenant, they should come to you. And I just zipped it because I heard him say this multiple times. My thoughts were, then I'm not good at anything. I'm not a really good family attorney, which family attorneys, divorce attorneys, they're a breed all unto themselves. They are the attack dogs. Usually. Not always. Some very nice ones. But generally speaking, oof. You gotta be a different type of person. I'm not good at landlord-tenant. I'm not good at small little DUI, little crime things. I'm not good at anything. I wanted to be good at immigration, and I am good at immigration. So be careful and that guy, I love him, but that guy is not a member of AILA. Kind of proves my point. How many bar associations can you join? Because they are ka-ching. If somebody really considers themselves an immigration attorney, they'll be a member of AILA. They get updates all the time. They have this wonderful listserv, that's what I was talking about, where you can ask other attorneys questions. You can ask other attorneys, I have a case out in Ohio. Anybody know a good immigration attorney in Cincinnati? And believe me, there'll be 3, 4, 5 different people that'll say, oh yeah, I work with so-and-so. Or yeah, I handled a case with so-and-so. It's wonderful to have a group, as immigration attorneys, it's all of us against the government. It's not like family law where a family lawyer might not help a new family lawyer because they're going to come up against each other. They're going to be opponents in lawsuits. So they might not help all that much. But with immigration, it's all of us against the government. And what's good for my client, 9 times out of 10 is good for everybody else's client. So let's say you've never done, some kind of a habeas motion. You can ask a question on that listserv, but you have to be a member of AILA. Who can give me a sample habeas motion? Who can give me some guidance, blah, blah, blah. And we all help each other. That's why it's so crucial that you have somebody who's a member of AILA, because one, they really consider themselves an immigration attorney, not just an attorney that, oh, by the way, I can handle that too. And 2, I forget what 2 was, but they consider themselves real. And 2, they have the resources that AILA puts out to keep them up to date on everything that's happening. So if you have any kind of an issue, please, please, please talk to people. Now, something to keep in mind about these bars, they're called 3 and 10 year bars. 3 year bar, if they've been unlawfully here for 6 to 12 months. 10 year bar, anything over 12 months. There are some important exceptions. One are juveniles. You know, if somebody came in when they were 6 because mom brought them in, at 16, he hasn't accrued any unlawful presence. But once he turns 18, that clock starts ticking. Asylum seekers, they probably won't be accruing. You know, if they filed, they have 1 year to file for asylum. They probably will not be accruing unlawful presence. Same thing if they've applied because they were trafficked. Or, I don't know if people are still doing U visas. U visas are for people who were victims of a crime. I had done a number of them, but they've gone off the deep end, as far as how long it's taking to do them. So anyway, important exceptions are minors, asylum seekers, victims of trafficking, and U visas and things like that. I talked about that, right? And I think that's it. Wow, that didn't take as long as I thought it would. Thanks for visiting Immigration and You. As I think I mentioned, I'm a retired immigration attorney with 40 years of experience. If you want to support the channel, please hit subscribe. I know they all say that, but I've set a goal. Look, I've set a goal of reaching 100 subscribers by the end of 2025. I have 74 right now, and it's 12:10. So hit subscribe, help me reach that 100 more goal. If you prefer, or if you've already subscribed and you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. I actually started that 3 weeks or so ago. No one has bought me a coffee yet. And I understand. It's like, why would I buy an attorney coffee? They can buy their own coffee. But although I am still an attorney, because as I told my kids, I will go to my grave with my law license. I am an attorney, but I'm not a practicing attorney, and living off of Social Security at this point. Some of you, if you've watched some of my other videos, I had some medical issues in the summer, which has kind of forced me to retire earlier than I expected to. So here I am. Can't type all that great. My left hand was affected, and although it's getting better, but so I'm not like the other attorneys. So there's also a video about that too, why I'm not like all the rest of them. They want you to hire their law firm. That's one of the main reasons. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the main reasons they're on YouTube. They want you to hire the law firm, not necessarily them. Like, look at Jim Hacking. He's got offices, he says it every single video. San Diego, Chicago, I think New York, I think Atlanta, I don't know. He's got offices all over the place. Well, what's that mean? Guess what? He's not going to be your attorney, but more than likely, he's not going to be your attorney. I'm sure he has completely qualified people doing his work for him. So if you trust Jim Hacking, you should trust the other attorneys that work with him. So if you want to be the first person to buy me a coffee, that would be great. I'd be thrilled. Maybe it's like a Christmas gift. I know that somebody's going to buy me a coffee. I don't know. We'll see. And I think that's it. Don't forget, Sundays at 10 a.m. I've been having live streams for that, and I think that's going to be it. That's it for now. If I don't see you again, which I hope I do, but if I don't see you again, have a very happy holiday, whatever you celebrate, and I'll see you next time. hopefully on Sunday at 10 a.m. for the live stream. Talk to you later. Bye bye.